Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome to InnerViews, the podcast where we dive deep into the realms of therapy, healing, and intentional living. I'm your guide on this adventure, Ivory. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey with me? Whether you're navigating the complexities of trauma, embracing intentional parenting, or seeking self help strategies, this podcast is your sanctuary. InnerViews is not just a podcast, it's a community, a safe space where stories unfold and healing takes center stage. Your story matters. And here, courageous storytelling is the heartbeat of our existence. We'll be exploring powerful themes like healing, navigating the intricacies of foster care, the strength found in survival, the beauty of reclamation, and the pure bliss of joy. So if you're ready to join hands with a community that understands, subscribe now. Let's walk this path together because the journey toward understanding and well-being starts right here, right now. Welcome to InnerViews, where every step is a celebration of your resilience and a testament to the incredible strength within you. Let's make this journey unforgettable. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you out there. Thank you for being here with us today. And thank you so much, Sonia, for being here. How are you?
I am doing so good. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Listen, you always have an invite to my cookout, okay? Don't wait for an invitation to show up, please. And I hope this is not the last time that we get to talk. But I'm incredibly honored. I knew you from being in foster care together. We were in the
Yes.
same DHS system, kind of like the same generation, if you will, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. And so we have a legacy.
Yes.
And
Yes, we
we
do.
had shared caseworkers and case managers who were just really awesome. We were just reflecting on how amazing Miss Heather, Miss Cherie,
And Cherie.
all of y'all, we thank you. We love you for your warmth, for your mothering, for your nurturing.
Yes.
And we're still in contact to this day. I mean, if I reach out,
Yes.
they'll reach out back to me. And it's just
Mhm.
we had a really positive experiences, but it
Mhm.
wasn't all like that. Everything about our experiences in foster care weren't like that. And so we're going to delve into that a little bit today. But before we go ahead and do all that,
Okay.
can you go ahead and let us know, who are you? Please tell us your name and a little bit about your story.
Okay, so my name is Sonia now Stevens. Recently married last year. Before that, it was Jones, but I go by Sonia Star J across social media. So if you ever come across me, that's what you'll see and find. I am a Pittsburgh, PA native, but I currently live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been here for about 7 years, and I absolutely love living in the South. I'm an author, speaker, and content creator. I do YouTube. I've authored a children's book and a poetry book of poems that I actually wrote while I was in foster care. So I took all of the poems from my time in foster care and put them into a book and released them in a book called At the Heart of a Lotus. So that was a beautiful work of art for me to be able to put out there and share. And mainly what my content is about is holistic health and wellness and self-care for mostly women.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And that's just really a beautiful thing that you have that. I didn't
Mhm.
realize that that book was from your time in care. So that is a new
Yeah.
perspective. That's really beautiful. Do you feel like, this is just an aside note, do you feel like you've lived enough life to write out the story of your life yet? I personally don't. And I'm just
I
always,
don't.
okay, yeah. So it's not just
Um,
a me thing, right? Because even
no,
as a
I don't.
writer, I
I've
don't feel,
always wanted to, but I never felt like it was the right time.
yeah,
Like I've
yeah.
lived a lot of life, but I don't think I've lived as much as I would want to put it all out there, you know? Just some
Yeah.
hesitancy too about how much I'm ready to. Yeah.
Mm, I feel you. And here's the other thing. This may sound radical. People might be like, Ivory, what are you talking about? I don't feel I've experienced enough joy to balance out
Hmm.
trauma and the stress that I've experienced so far. And like you,
100%.
I've lived a lot of life. I've had so many experiences, good, bad, and other, but there
Hmm.
has not been enough sustained joy yet, like
100%.
for me to share a balanced story.
Yeah.
And I'm actually hoping that the joy surpasses the pain, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I
Thank
don't
you
actually
for
want to.
sharing that. Thank you
Yeah.
for letting me know I'm not alone in that feeling
Mhm.
because a lot of people, especially like on social media, it make it seem like, once you hit your 30s, you're at your peak and life is just supposed to be beautiful. Baby, no,
Mhm.
like you're still, going through the motions. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that I've seen you for a while and followed your story on social media as a content creator too. And you really hit something on the head. Like your 30s, it's presented as like, oh, this is your 20s, but
Hmm.
with money. But for many of us with lived experience, there's not that much money. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
We out here having all these degrees and we're not getting the degree
Listen,
money.
listen.
But for also specifically for people like us who have been really been intentional about the healing work, I feel like
Mhm.
this is a time where we're actually safe enough to dig
Yeah.
even deeper. And
Yes.
that means
Yes.
uncovering things that we didn't even know were there sometimes. And
Absolutely.
that is a radical.
Yeah. And oh man, that's so powerful to me and for me because over the last, like since I've turned 30, I'm 33 now, I have been spending a lot of intentional time
Yeah.
uncovering a lot of childhood things, like going through a health situation now. And a lot of the root of that is things that I experienced while I was in foster care and in my young adulthood. So I'm just like, it is very interesting, the journey. Yeah.
It is. And I think that your 30s, when you think about the context of having been in foster care, you're far removed enough from it that you can
Yes.
feel safe enough and that you can have established your community that can hold you and
Mhm.
uplift you and help you and resource you. But again, it also unexpectedly brings out this level of healing that you might not have even realized was there or
Right.
that you had the capability of like, finding, let alone
Right.
actually healing it. And so it's a weird radical existence.
Yeah, and even knowing what the things are
Mhm,
that exist, like the awareness of it is big.
mhm,
Like
mhm.
for me, I worked as a foster care social worker, and I felt like I had to remove myself from my job in order to heal all of my stuff. And
Oof.
that it hurt me because I was like, I really want to be there for my babies. I want to be there for, the ones who look up to me because I have the lived experience. But in order for me to really give them what they deserve and
Right.
also give myself what I need, I
Mhm.
have to remove myself from this role, from, just all of this because it was causing me to relive and, go through a lot of the experiences that I hadn't all the way healed from. So I
Mm.
definitely, yeah.
That is so real, but you are still there for them and you are still showing them just in a different capacity.
I am. I
Yeah.
love my babies. They still reach out and we still talk.
Yes,
So
yes. I had that same conversation with myself about leaving education because education is such a toxic work environment, especially for Black women in particular. We're expected to give so much and get so little in return. We're not respected, we're not supported, we're not well resourced, we're not considered as leadership. There's just I could go on and on. And it has so many similarities to the field of social work, actually. They expect teachers to do so many things that social workers should actually be doing.
mm,
I'm not even going to get into that tangent, but I felt so guilty about leaving my students too. I've
mhm,
always taught at Title I schools. I have had students who had child welfare involvement, juvenile justice involvement. They've always been historically underserved. And so I felt guilty because everyone
yeah,
leaves them.
same, same.
Everyone leaves them. But I also had to talk to
Mhm,
myself and say, Ivory, you're not leaving them. You're transforming your relationship with them, and they're going to be able to see a Black woman make healthy,
yes,
sound decisions for herself, lead a
yes.
life that she loves, and
Mhm,
foster and facilitate joy in her
mhm,
life. And you can't do that here. And so it would
yes,
actually be a dishonor to not only yourself, but to them to continue to stay in a place
100%.
where you're not honored. So I just had to reframe that for myself and think of it
Mhm,
as like we're transforming our relationships. We're not abandoning
absolutely.
or ending them.
Yeah. Because they
But
still follow
that,
us on social media and
yeah,
everything. And I'm like, hey, I see you doing your thing on
yeah.
social media. And I'm like, yeah. And it empowers them too. So I love
Mhm.
it. I
I
love it.
love that. I think there's a quote that just keeps resounding in my mind and my heart, and my spirit this year, especially given the context of the work that I'm doing now with Youth Voices Rising, that your silence will not protect you. I believe
Mm,
Audre Lorde said that, if I'm not mistaken. And I really feel that for many of us, that's true. I know that everyone doesn't feel that way. And
Mhm.
people who do feel that way might not always feel that way or might not consistently feel that way. But I think that giving yourself the space to share your stories
Yes.
and to let people know how they've wronged you and how they can right
Mhm.
you is really empowering. And I think that personally, when we are silent about things, when we keep things inside, that makes us sick and unwell. And we deserve to be healthy,
It
whole.
does. It does. That is actually a very spiritual thing and actually something that I'm working through right now. Like I
Mhm.
was saying, a lot of the trauma and repressed emotion from things that I went through in my life in my childhood and foster care caused me to be sick in ways I wasn't even aware of until I got into my 30s. And I'm like, this new awareness. And I'm like, wow, I have to tell people about this and share this experience because so many people repress their emotions and
Mhm.
don't use their voice and don't share their stories and don't advocate for themselves. And it causes us a lot of mental illness, physical illness.
Yes.
Yeah, I could go on. So,
Yes. And then when you think about that in the context of our own like personal families and the generational stress that as African
yes.
Americans we've experienced, epigenetics. You know what? I'm going off the deep end. Let me bring it back.
Mhm.
So for our audience, can you talk to me? And we've already kind of touched on it a little bit, but what is your experience within the child welfare system?
So I was in foster care from the ages of 14 to 24. My mother transitioned when I was 14. She had a reproductive health issue. And I was in foster care until the age of 24 because I signed myself back in at 18 and then got into a program. I also was in foster care as a child at like age 6 maybe, and I don't really recall all the details of that, but it was due to like physical abuse, physical child abuse. So, and then also I went on after I turned 24 to become a social worker for the foster care system and homeless youth until for about 8 years.
Well, thank you
Mhm.
for sharing that. I really do
Absolutely.
appreciate it. And health is important, y'all. Please go get checked up.
Mhm.
Mind, body, spirit. Truly but true.
Yes.
So I brought you here for a unique conversation because this month is actually Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I have experiences with that from my childhood, from foster care, and even in adulthood. And I
Same.
think it's something that unfortunately a lot of people with child welfare involvement experience. And so
Mhm.
I appreciate your willingness to engage in this conversation today. And I hope that
Mhm.
it can be healing for both of us and for those who are listening.
Yeah.
So, our first question, we're going to get into the
Mhm.
meat of it. What unique challenges do individuals who have experienced sexual assault and trauma while in foster care face in their journey towards healing and empowerment?
I feel that it increases the feelings of mistrust and it prolongs the healing journey, especially when you don't have anybody to tell about what happened. I know for myself, I experienced sexual assault as a teen, still living in my mother's home. And that was an experience in itself. But then once she transitioned, and I tried to tell people in my family like about the things that happened, nobody believed me. And then dealt with assault again while in foster care. And again, no one listened. No one wanted to hear me because they already had this stigma about who
Right.
I was and my behaviors and the fact that, I wasn't like their child, and so
Mhm.
it was a different level of care
Mhm.
and it caused a lot of behaviors in me like hypersexuality, insecurity, low self-esteem, and not having that space to really tell somebody like I'm hurting and I need help and I need somebody to hear me and listen to me and support me and believe me.
Mhm.
And that was a really big thing for me along my journey. And I didn't get that for a long time until I got into therapy. And
Mhm.
even that is an experience in itself. And also, I know that, people who don't experience foster care go through a lot of the same things that we experience in care,
Mhm.
but it's kind of different in a way because for me, it was like I have like my parents are they're not here. They're not a part
Mhm.
of this equation. They're not a part of the situation.
Mhm.
So I'm going to this family that I'm in and I'm just like kind of there. I'm not their child and it's a different type of love and attention.
Mhm.
They're just like, "Oh girl,
Right.
hush." You know what I'm saying? Or getting in trouble for
Mhm.
even expressing the things that I went through and then they like make it your fault. It's like, well, what did you do? And it's
Yeah.
like, not having that support really, it makes a world of a difference.
I've seen people open up and share that they've been hurt and abused while in care, and people don't believe them, or people don't listen to them,
Yeah.
or they punish them and ask them again, victim,
Yes.
what did you do? Why didn't you say
Mm-hmm.
anything? You know,
Right.
and it doesn't always you mentioned something too, like being outside of the home of your parents is always strange. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter how kind or loving or gentle a caregiver could be, it's never going to be your mother or your father. And
Yes.
for most people, not all people, but for most people, it's uncomfortable. It's
Yes.
not familiar. It's so strange. I remember I wrote one time, and I don't know if you'll relate to this or not. I was in, several homes, placement, shelters, all kinds of things. The smell of the sheets,
Mm.
the different scents of people's houses. It's
Hmm.
unlike your own, you know?
Yeah.
Babies, when they're born, they know the smell of their mother. They know what her skin scent is.
Yeah.
They smell her hormones from her lactating and the happy
Mm.
mommy hormones and all of those things. That is not with you when you're in the home of someone else. And it
Right.
always stood out because my grandmother, she used to use Downy. She used to excessively use Downy. Laundry
Hmm.
softener. And so she always smelled heavily like, Downy and whatever
Yeah.
like grandma's wear and stuff. But I knew that that was her scent. But when
Mm.
you are in the home of someone else, you don't necessarily know what they do with their laundry. Their
Yeah.
dinner doesn't smell like your dinner. Their sheets
Hmm.
don't smell like your sheets. And it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like a significant thing, but it is such a big thing.
It is a big thing. And
Mhm.
for me, it was being in homes where they also had their own children. They treat you different, you know?
Mm, mhm,
And
mhm,
being in homes where there were, other people, like for me, my assault was caused by a male.
mhm.
By telling them, like, hey, this is happening,
Yeah.
you they're not always going to believe you over their partner or
Mm,
their, family member or whatever. And it's always going to, not always, but it came down to, well, what did you do to cause this to happen? Or what were you
mm,
wearing? And so I think that, well, I would hope that if it was a different situation, that I would have been more protected had I had it been my mother,
mm,
or,
mm.
something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I experienced sexual assault once while I was living with my mother. She had a boyfriend. I believe I
Mhm.
was 7 years old. And so I don't think she had any idea, but this guy was clearly like a predator, you know?
Yeah.
The crazy, scary thing is that he also had twin daughters my same age. And
Oh my
so,
goodness. I
yeah,
relate to that. I relate to that. Yeah.
yeah, and I was strong enough to like fight and get away. Like he asked me to touch me inappropriately, and I was like, no, and I ran. But I often think about how many little girls didn't run.
Right.
How many little
Yeah.
girls did you corner and ask inappropriate things and they couldn't run or didn't run and didn't have the strength or the courage or the wisdom to get away or to scream for help. And so
Yeah.
I would like to think that if my mother was not mentally ill and that if she had better supports, she would have been able to avoid being in that relationship and putting us in that situation. But I also experienced sexual assault while in foster care. So,
Same.
it's not, when we think about removing children from their homes, it's not always the safer option. And I feel like in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, we're exposing them to more harm than good.
Yeah. So in my situation, my mother, I told you she was sick with cervical cancer.
Mhm.
And my assault actually happened when I was from 11 to 13.
Mm,
And my mother also experienced assault as well. And so I think a part of my experience in her not protecting me came
mm,
from her not being protected. And
mm,
so she married a man who was also a predator with daughters.
Mm.
And I didn't learn until I was an adult that he was never allowed around his children. And I'm like, well,
Oh.
why? I wonder if anybody ever told my mom,
Mm-hmm.
like, you're marrying this predator. But for me, I'm the oldest of all of the children. I
Mm.
have to protect myself and I have to protect them.
That
And I
burden.
carried that,
Mm.
yeah, I carried that with me throughout my entire life until I left home because I'm like, now I need to save myself. You
Mm.
know, I have to release all of this pain and anger and trauma and frustration and grief. And I'm still working through that with, like, I was diagnosed with thyroids, and a lot of that is emotional and spiritual,
Yeah.
and overcoming that trauma to my womb
Yes.
that was caused from, these experiences that I had in my childhood. And when I got into foster care, I was, hypersexual, and I was looking for that love and nurturing and care because I thought and was told that that was the only thing that I was going to be good for. And
Mm.
because people knew my mother, who was assaulted and was
Mm.
also hypersexual, they began to think that that's the type of person that I was. Like, I was just going to be out here doing all of these things. And I'm like, I want to play football. I want to do all these
Yeah.
things. Like, I
Yeah.
really want to live my life. But because you all haven't asked me why I am the way I am, you haven't sat me down and
Mm.
had the conversation with me that I need to be had. I need you to love on me and
Mm.
really get to know me for me. But instead, you're seeing that I'm coming in from the system. My mother is not here to protect me or
Mm.
advocate for me. And I'm afraid to stand up and advocate for myself because you're the adult in this situation, and you'll hit me or punish me or do anything to me. So I'm just going to be quiet and not say anything because I'm afraid. And so now carrying that fear around, even till this day, carrying that fear because
Yeah.
they had this misconception of who my mother was and therefore a misconception of who I am. And they didn't allow me to truly be myself. And I wasn't allowed to embrace my femininity. I wasn't allowed to, like, do all the things that I needed to grow as a young woman, as a young adult. And it always frustrated me that I had to leave home in order to find myself,
Mm.
But I'm also grateful that I got the opportunity to leave because now they have learned to see me in a different light. And
Mm.
I got the opportunity to heal away from the space that hurt me?
I feel like
So,
you're reading pages from my life. Like
yeah,
so many things, but the first thing I want to do is just take a deep breath
yeah.
because we were so unprotected.
Hmm.
We were so unprotected. We were taken from our families and we were unprotected, and that is not okay. And I hope that people who listen to this podcast and who listen to our stories in whatever capacity, whether they're watching us on social media, whether they're reading things we've written, whether they talk to us face to face, is that they really understand the depths of the vulnerability that foster youth face and how
Yes.
unprotected we actually are. I know it's easy for people to think, oh, they're fine, they're in foster care. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
Foster care has perpetuated more harms in the lives of people that I know than when they're
Yes.
not in foster care.
Hmm.
And so it's just really sad. But you also touched on like a few other talking points that I have realized later in life. Now I'm about to be 34 this year. Woo, where's time going?
Same.
Like what? I was just 22. But
Yeah.
you touched on parentification, right? And how I don't know if you were spoken to in this capacity in foster care, but I was always told I need to look out for my little sister.
Yes.
And I was always spoken
And
to.
now, girl.
Listen, we could write a whole dissertation on that. But in addition to that, we have adultification. And I was always spoken to like I was 56 years old. Even when
Hmm.
I was like 8 years old, 12,
Yeah.
15, 17. We all know that that's babies. Anyone under the age of 25, I love you, but you're a baby, okay? And you
Yeah. Yeah.
deserve way more support than society offers.
Mhm.
And little Black girls being spoken to like they're elder women is a problem because we
100%.
we need to be held and handled softly.
We
Uh, we
do.
need to be loved,
We
right? We
do.
need to be trusted, and we need to be heard and listened to, and we need to be centered in a really beautiful, empowering, positive way.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
and so what if we have curves? So what?
Yeah.
We didn't ask for them. They just came out that way. Okay. I had C
Mhm.
cups at 10. I
Girl,
didn't,
I'm
I
telling you.
Okay, that's not my fault. But it
That's
doesn't
in our
negate
space.
that I was still a 10-year-old, you know?
Yeah.
We still need to be handled softly and gently and warmly. And so I hope that for both of us as we continue to move through life and navigate and build relationships and partners and family and
Yeah.
just hope we can find those soft landing spaces. So let me get to our next question though. So, how does the intersection of past trauma and the foster care system affect the ability of survivors to build trusting relationships and access necessary support networks for the recovery of healing?
I feel like, actually, I wrote this down. When you already feel like people don't want you, don't
Mm,
love you, and because you've been given away, you're not open to new relationships. You're
mm,
not always open to letting people get to know you
mm,
because you've probably done that multiple times and were let down or
mm,
left or moved or
mhm,
given away. And that creates a shield.
mm,
Um, and we don't always realize it, when we're younger. But I noticed this for like when I became a social worker that the organization that I worked for, they called me their secret weapon because I was able to get my youth to break down that wall because I related and I listened and I
mm,
cared and I
mm,
stayed as
mm,
long as I could. But it's something about having somebody who cares to understand all of your things and
mm,
not judge you for them and
mm,
love you through all of it. It's
mm.
so important to have somebody like that in your support system. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would sum that up. I heard authentic relationship building.
Yes.
Authentic relationship building. And the same thing applies in education. That's my first profession. Well, I mean, I've been in advocacy since I was a teenager, but professionally, I guess, education.
Yeah.
But authentic relationship building, kids are a
Mhm.
great gauge at people's authenticity and they
Yes.
respond to that. And if you're
Hmm.
fake, forget about it.
Hmm.
Forget about it. Unless you were
100%.
making it rain and throwing a whole bunch of food and candy and
Yeah.
gas at them, where they can
Yes.
temporarily forget. Authenticity is going to be very quickly ascertained by the youth. And I think that that's why you were the secret weapon, that authentic relationship building and engagement and also representation matters, right?
Yes.
So the fact that you could stand before them as a professional who was choosing to do that line of work and still show up as your authentic self is incredibly powerful. So thank you for the work you
Mhm.
did as a social worker too. I don't know if I'm
Absolutely.
gotten, but thank you. You didn't have to do it and you did. So in
Mhm.
what ways do societal stigmas and misconceptions surrounding both foster care and sexual assault hinder survivors' paths to finding joy and reclaiming their agency?
So this is something that we kind of talked about a little before. People already have a negative perception of youth in care. If you're a caseworker who's been in the field for a while and you're getting a new case, people don't always talk about youth in care in positive ways.
Mhm.
And if you're a foster parent who's getting a new youth in their home, a lot of times the caseworkers are not talking about these children in positive ways. And so that already creates a bias in the person's mind who's about to go into a relationship with this young person or child who needs somebody who really wants to see them and be there for them without bias, without judgment, without any of those things, and just care for them. And then also, another piece of that is that people also don't see youth or people just in general who have experienced sexual assault in a positive way because they're not aware.
Mhm.
So, for me, as somebody with lived experience in foster care, lived experience with sexual assault. When I come across a youth or a child or just any person in general that is exhibiting certain behaviors, I'm going to ask questions. But people
Mhm.
who don't have that awareness or education, they're going to write that off as a behavioral issue. They're going to be frustrated by it, irritated by it. They're probably not going to dig deeper to ask questions because they're just judging the behavior and treating that the child or the youth in a particular way that's probably going to cause them to act out worse. Like for myself, for example, like I was saying before, my sexual assault caused me to be hypersexual. Like I was looking for love and care and affection in boys and men from anybody, girls, men, boys, anybody that was willing to give it to me because I was seeking something and I wasn't getting that in my home. My parents weren't there. So now I'm out and I'm searching for something and I don't have anybody to say, "Are you okay? Like, what's going on? Did something happen?" Like, not having somebody to see me in the way I needed.
Okay. You said you were looking for love and you were seeking it
Yeah.
from anyone who could give it to you, really. And that's okay. And you mentioned curiosity being something that could have benefited the care workers who you came in contact.
Yes.
But
Asking questions.
I had a thought when you were speaking. Can I share?
Hmm. Hmm.
I often think about this lack of this victim shaming and
Yeah.
blaming from the context of like this system is just so corrupt, like they don't care about kids and they don't care about us getting hurt. But I also really just had this thought. So, people who experience sexual assault are not only just in foster care, they're everyone across the world.
Hmm.
And their own personal experiences probably also inform how they receive or don't receive that information,
Hmm.
or how they are curious or not curious about that information as well.
Hmm.
And so as a society, I think we need to get better at educating people on sexual health in general, right? Just all things around
100%.
health. We need to normalize sexual health content in classrooms. We need to normalize sexual education just across the board. But not only that, we need to develop a sense of urgency around listening to one another and
Hmm.
helping one another when we share these things. Because
Yes.
people are getting sexually assaulted every single day across all generations. It has nothing to do with race or gender or socioeconomic status. You know,
Hmm.
so until we can start to normalize these conversations and to create safe spaces intentionally, yeah, this is going to keep repeating itself. It's going to keep repeating it.
Yeah. And
Uh,
that's part of what I was saying was that what I wish I had had when I was younger and experiencing these assaults was somebody to say, like, "Hey, are you okay? Did something happen?"
mhm,
Like, when I was exhibiting these behaviors, somebody to see me, really see me,
right.
instead of victim shaming me and
Mhm,
making me the problem, but seeing my behaviors as the problem and
mhm,
getting to the root of that. Like, what happened to her?
mhm,
What's going on with her that's causing her to act out like this? Does she need anything?
mhm,
Because that's really what I was searching for. And so, because I remember feeling that way, it became a goal of mine to give that to the next person or young
mhm,
girl or whoever that I also seen experiencing the same things and asking, "Are you okay? Is there
mhm,
something that you want to talk about? Anything?" And then giving them the space to feel comfortable with sharing if they want to. And you just don't know how powerful it is for somebody to just ask, "Are you okay? Do you
mhm,
need anything? Is there
mhm,
anything you want to talk about? If you don't want to talk about it now, we can talk about it later, but just understand that I'm here for you and I'm not here to judge you. I care and I want to help you." It is so important to have those type of conversations, whether it's your family, work, friends,
yeah.
just creating those safe spaces for people. So yeah.
Absolutely. And normalizing it. And it takes conversations like this, and it takes people like you in the field and industries who are willing to be those soft landing spaces and to be representation that yes, this
Yeah.
happened to me, but it does not define me. And here's how I got over it, and let me help you in any way that I can. So thank you
Like
for
you were
sharing
saying.
that.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And like you were saying about the stigma around it, I experienced so much shame
Mhm.
around my body so much
Mhm.
shame around my femininity, so much
Mhm.
shame around just myself and my life in general. I felt bad. I felt dirty. I felt all of these negative things about myself. And that carried into how I went about being in relationships with other people. It affected how I viewed myself and my worth. And when you don't have these conversations, then it causes people to go on through life having these feelings of low self-worth, low self-esteem, not feeling like anybody would love them because of these experiences and having nobody to talk to about it.
Absolutely. I mean, we could talk about this forever. And one thing that keeps resounding in my mind, forgive me, I'm a doula, so I'm always thinking about womb health.
I
I'm
want to be
always
a
thinking about,
doula.
you can do it. I'll talk to you offline about it. I did it because of my sisters and my best friends. And I was like, I want to know everything that I can know in terms of supporting them before, during, and after labor and delivery because I
Me
love
too.
being auntie and I love babies. And
Yeah.
I want to support the people in my life to the best of my ability. And that was something that I felt like could help me do that. But I only bring that up because of two things. You mentioned womb health, and I can't help but think about the generations of women who came before us who also had these experiences, who were also unheard, who were not listened to, considered, protected, or given justice in any capacity. And they just kept going and kept going. And then they got to us. Right. And I feel
Yes.
like we're kind of disruptors because we're standing up and we're speaking out. And we're not shameful about it. We're not hiding from it. We can look our people in the face and tell them, this is what you did to me, but you didn't break me.
Yes.
And I'm not going to let you do it to anyone else because I'm going to
Hmm.
tell my story and I'm going to stand in that truth and honor that truth. But it also had me thinking, so every physical ailment can have kind of like a metaphysical, a meta spiritual explanation, right? And so I really do feel like that mind, body, spirit connection is so important when thinking about healing. And you seem to be just as passionate about health as
I am.
I like to feel good, first of all. So
Yeah.
I'm like, anything I can learn about feeling better is going to feel really great. And I have a chronic illness too. So it is something that I
Yeah.
have to consider every day. But the other component of that is when we think about generations. So when our grandmothers were pregnant with our mothers, they were also pregnant with us
Yes.
because they had our little egg sacs that weren't fully matured eggs yet, but they were inside of our mom as she was inside of our grandma. And
Mhm.
I just think that's
And
such
that
a
is bad.
it's beautiful,
Girl, listen.
right? Like it's
Yes.
powerful. It's beautiful. It's powerful. It makes me feel I feel so connected to my ancestors, even the ones
Mm,
I was not connected to physically, but I feel like I was
yes.
there with them because, again, when my grandmother was a little baby, she had,
Yeah.
my mom's little zygote egg thing inside of her as she was inside of my great grandmother. It's such a beautiful responsibility that people with uteruses have to
Mhm.
carry multiple generations in their wombs. And I think that's why it's so important to have conversations like this so that we can discuss the trauma that wombs can experience, but not only that, the healing that wombs can experience.
Yes.
And we can heal it
Yes.
through diet, we can heal it through
Yeah.
conversation, we can heal it through sister circles and sister communities. And we could go on and on and on, but this is just a plug for really just like what's going on with your room and like let's talk about it. Let's work with it
Yes.
and let's heal
Please.
it.
That is so important.
Yeah,
And I'm actively on my womb healing journey. And that is the exact reason
yeah,
why, Ari,
yeah.
because when I got my diagnosis and I started like doing searches on the internet, I couldn't find anybody that looked like me that was
Mm,
talking about this. So when
mm,
I started to dig and do more research, I'm like, what is this thing? And so I just recently talked to the women in my family and learned that they also experienced the same thing. And I'm like, there's got to be something else going on here. And I want to heal this and stop this here so that my daughter doesn't have to experience this, my granddaughter doesn't have to experience this. It like we have such a powerful and unique opportunity to change some things, and it starts by having the talks. So yeah, I'm
yes.
just yeah,
And one thing I have to share before we move on, because it's such a powerful reframing and thought process. I hope that our children don't have the same struggles that we have, right? But
absolutely.
in the event that they do, I'm going to
Mhm.
tell you something that my ex-fiance told me. I was talking to him and I was like, I just hope that I have type 1 diabetes, juvenile diabetes. It's a really invasive, invisible disease. Like most people don't realize all that I have to do every day just to stay alive and to be healthy. And so I would talk to him and I would say, oh, I just hope that our children don't have to deal with this. I hope they don't ever get diagnosed with this disease. And he said, you know what, Ivory? Even if they do, they'll have the best coach and helper and mother ever
Yeah.
because you are a superstar at it and you already know what you need to do to be healthy and to be strong and to thrive. And it really took me aback because I never thought about it that way. I was thinking, oh God, I hope that my children don't ever have this disease, which is genetic in some aspects. But if they do, Sonia, if our kids come out and have experienced any of the things that we've experienced, we are great teachers. We are
Yes.
wonderful, wise future mothers who will have everything they need to get through it and to have joy and to facilitate healing. So let's move to our next part of this conversation. I could talk to you all day, clearly. But I don't think the listeners will stay around for that. So maybe we'll have to have a part two. But I do want to kind of hop to another question. So when considering the complexities of navigating the child welfare system, what steps do you believe are necessary to ensure the restorative justice approaches that prioritize the voices and agency of those directly impacted, including children, parents, caregivers, and communities?
One thing that I was always a very big advocate for was more training
Mm,
for those in the system and for those wanting to be in the system. People who say, "Oh, I want to become a social worker." Okay, what you really need to know what it is that you're getting
mm,
yourself into when you're signing yourself up to be a part of a person's support system, whether that's being a foster care parent, whether that's being a caseworker, really having more in-depth conversations and trainings with the people who are going to be stepping into these roles because I was on both sides of it. I don't think that there was enough discussion about our needs. A lot of times people get into it for the wrong reasons that are selfish and they don't come in to really truly support. Now, some people do. Some
mm,
people do become like caseworkers and foster parents for the right reasons, but then they quickly realize what it is that they're dealing with,
mhm,
and they either give up
mm,
or they deal with it with the wrong mindset and biases. And
mm,
so I think having more open discussions, allowing the youth to come in and educate the social workers and foster parents, really hearing it from their points of view is
mm,
very important. In my last role as a social worker, I actually created a kind of public relations group for the young people to be able to sit in on meetings with different groups of people to
mm.
let them know their experiences from their perspective and point of view so that they just weren't seen a certain type of way, because we could be painted in very negative lights. And so just having more conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And we're also not saying that everyone who is in foster care needs to go out and be a social worker or
Oh,
even
absolutely.
become a national advocate for this work. No,
No.
that's not everyone's calling. But I will charge everyone with this. It is your responsibility to heal. Right. And
Yeah.
so there's this saying that like, what happens to you is not your responsibility, but what you do with that and your healing is. And so if you feel called to be a foster parent or a social worker, that's wonderful. If you're not, please be called to be healthy. Whatever you do.
Listen.
Be a healthy doctor, be a healthy bus driver, be a healthy librarian.
I've actually like when I was a foster care social worker, I had a lot of my young people tell me that that's what they wanted to do, and I told them, don't
Mm,
work on you first.
mhm,
Absolutely work on you first because that's why I did it. And I
mhm.
wasn't ready for all of the things that I had to re-go through by
Yeah.
trying to help somebody before I was prepared. So yes, work on yourself, advocate, for yourself and for the groups of people that you're passionate about, but healing yourself first is the first step and it's the most important step. Absolutely.
It is the most important step. And I couldn't help one more thing before we move on to our next question. You were talking about essentially the village. It takes a village to raise a child. And I think
Mhm.
that that's one thing that a lot of people, specifically those who choose to be foster parents, lack. because we're not saying you have to be perfect to be a foster parent. No one's going to be perfect. But if
Mhm.
you have a village surrounding you, there are going to be people who can fill in where you're weak and you can help people where you're strong, right? So I say that because if you're a foster parent who's not really good at expressing emotions, but you have a community of people around you and you know Miss Mabel down the street, oh, she's all emotional, right? If she can give
Mhm.
all the hugs and the cuddles and the affirmations that your really emotionally needy foster child might need, that's the beauty of being in a village. You don't have to have it all. You don't have to be it all, but do know your shortcomings and be open to hearing those so that you can ask for help when needed. All right, we have one more question before we get into my final questions, and I have three final questions for you. Are there specific therapeutic approaches or support systems that have shown particular effectiveness in helping individuals from foster care backgrounds navigate the complexities of healing from sexual trauma while fostering a sense of empowerment and resilience?
So when I was thinking about this, we actually were talking about this before we started, but the agencies like the ones that we had where they work closer with the youth,
Mhm.
I think that is so important because when you are a youth in care, you have your CPS worker, and
Mhm.
oftentimes those CPS workers, they're in and they're out. You don't see them a lot.
You don't see,
Like, or
I don't
you'll
even
see
remember who
them.
they are, to be honest.
I don't remember any of my CPS workers, but I
No.
remember that worker that I had from Ward. I remember them
Yeah.
because they were throughout my entire journey with me, even into adulthood. And I think having that type of support, I guess, kind of in a sense like hand holding, but they were such an integral part of my development as a woman. Like I remember going to my first interview and like bombing it and having Miss Cherie like call me like, girl, like telling me about myself, but preparing me,
Yeah.
like getting me dressed for my first interview, walking me through all those steps, helping me get my first internship. Miss Heather teaching me how to grocery shop. I'm
Yes.
like for my first apartment, like
Mhm.
helping me like find and furnish my first apartment, like all of those things that that our parents would do, like our like CPS workers do that, but a lot of times their caseloads are so big that they can't give a lot of that individualized attention and love. And I
Mhm.
think that is so important. And I'm just like forever eternally grateful for the examples that we had with them because that was such a safe space and they
Mhm.
created opportunities for us to learn, like having us go to those groups learning about credit. Like who's thinking about that? But
Yeah.
they put it in our minds like if nobody else in the world is going to give you this information, we're going to give it to you. And I love that
Yeah.
having the opportunity to like go on trips and like go to colleges and stuff. I was never thinking about college. I didn't think that that was something that I would be able to do. Nobody in my family had ever been to college. So
Mhm.
being able to experience different things that I probably otherwise would have never, just
Yeah.
having support, having those type of support groups. But also I wanted to speak on the types of therapeutic approaches. So, journaling is one thing that really helps me as a youth.
Mhm.
I, a lot of my young adults did not trust therapists for, good
Yeah.
reason a lot of times. I had good experiences with my therapist, but I also was an avid journaler. That's
Mhm.
how I was able to come up with those poems to put out that book because I wrote everything. My grandma still calls me to this day, like, "Hey, girl, I found one of your books and you was writing everything in here." So,
I love
journaling,
it. Yeah.
yeah, journaling is very therapeutic because it helps you to release that emotion that you otherwise, would hold on to. But also something that people don't really know about is massage therapy. I,
Yes. I know about
yeah,
it. Listen.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I, more people
Oh,
need to know about the benefits of
yes.
massage therapy.
Yes.
And I became a massage therapist in 2018.
Mm.
And I didn't realize how healing it was for me as a former foster youth, but also as a person who had experienced sexual trauma.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
I had I had got a massage from a male while I
Mhm.
was in class, and I had experienced what was called a somatic release. And so
Mhm.
while he was giving me the massage, my body was experiencing emotions because this man was touching me in a way that it wasn't sexual at all,
Mhm.
but it was like I was finally connecting with my body again, and I was in a relaxed state, and I wasn't just having sex or being touched because they wanted something. Like it wasn't anything like that. And I began to cry
Mhm.
so hard, and I couldn't stop crying. And I was like, what is happening to me? They're like, you're finally letting go.
Mhm.
And so my teacher, she was like, if you don't learn how to relax, you're gonna fail this class. And
Oh,
so it because I couldn't relax.
I get it.
Um,
I understand.
But over time, I learned to one, be open to touch therapy,
Yeah.
to allow, the massage therapist to do their job and learn to relax. It is such a powerful form of therapy. And I actually, as you were speaking of becoming a doula, I actually got certified to be a labor, pregnancy, and fertility massage therapist so that I could help women who have experienced, all of these things, infertility, emotional health things, help them to overcome that so that they can, go forth and be great and have babies.
Oh,
So,
love
yeah,
that.
I love it.
In an
I love it
ideal
so much.
world, we would have a center where you could have all these things and we could
Hmm.
offer all these awesome things to all the people who experience foster care. If I've ever become really, really rich, I will
Yeah.
second.
I said
But
that I was gonna start offering like massage therapy to foster youth. I'm
mm,
gonna get around to doing that at the agency that I used to work at because I need for more people to know about the power
mm,
in massage therapy because it is very therapeutic and I did not like being touched because
mm,
I have been touched inappropriately so many times and I was not connected with my body. I wasn't connected with my femininity. And massage therapy allowed me to do that. Even just doing self massage therapy helped
mhm,
me to do that. And it takes me back to the only memory that I have of my mom. A piece of advice that she gave to me was get to know yourself before you let someone else get to know you.
mm.
And that keeping that with me is allowing me to reconnect with myself because, yeah, life
You
happens.
know, just so much yes. Safe healing touch is always going to be a beautiful thing for people with
Safe healing touch.
any violent background experiences. And then also the other part of that, especially I know little Black girls don't get enough hugs. There's a
Yeah.
lot, I don't have the specific studies, but there's a lot of studies and research about you're supposed to get like a certain amount of hugs each day as a child, and that
Oh,
your nervous system to cope and develop properly. And for a lot of little kids who are of color, particularly Black and brown girls, we don't get enough of that. And again, that safe healing touch can really help to not only facilitate a healthier relationship with physically interacting with safe people, but also can help us to address those traumatic neglects that we
yes.
experience, you know?
Mhm.
So much. Oh, and then I want to give a shout out to Ward Home. For our listeners, we were both
Yes.
in the same independent living program, and I realized we were trying to think of the name of the third worker. I think her name was also Heather. So there was Miss Heather Samuels and then Miss Heather, the
I feel like it
independent
started with a C.
worker. Was it? I
It
can't
feels,
remember. Okay. If
I
you
don't
are
know.
at Ward Home and you work with Ivory and Sonia, just let us know. We love you still.
So much.
And Miss
Yes.
Heather, Miss Cherie, look, I can't wait to see y'all invites
Girl.
to all the
Mhm.
things that I have going on in life. I just really am so grateful for y'all. Okay. Last but not least, I have my three questions for my people who are lived experts in the child welfare system.
Mhm.
The first is, what changes do you hope to see in the child welfare system in your lifetime?
More support for aftercare and also in-home foster care for youth from people who care and to take care of their self-care so they can show up fully and not burnt out. I
Mm,
think more support for the people who work with youth and more education for them to pour into themselves will then give them the strength and mental capability to pour into the youth to the best of their ability. So even if that looks like not having so many caseloads, I had probably 10 youth, and I was able to pour in so much love and time with them. And I think that a lot of times in the system, the workers just show up burnt out and overworked. And
Mhm.
so they're not able to give as much as the youth needs. And that perpetuates a cycle of neglect. So definitely more care in the in-home experience, but then also the aftercare experience. A lot of my youth didn't know that they could sign themselves back into foster care with certain stipulations. And so they were just dropped off at 18. And when we think about what that does to a normal child, who has parents and family and somebody to fall back on, now in the society that we live in, when you just drop off a youth who doesn't have anywhere else to turn, they don't have anybody to help them find housing. They don't have anybody to help them with the college process and, all of those things that I'm just so grateful that we got to experience being in ward. Like I was saying with like Sheree and them, they were with me until I was 24. And I got my first apartment when I was 24. Had I not had them and that experience, I don't even want to think about where my life would have ended up. And a lot of times the system drops these youth off at 18 with no other resources. So I definitely would love for there to be more support for aftercare for youth and care. So
Sonia, I never thought about what my life would be like without Miss Heather and Miss Cherie, and that is a terrifying thought.
yeah,
That is wow. I
yeah,
can't even
yeah,
fathom. They brought so much joy and you really talked about how they guided you in terms of like kind of helping you develop as a woman. And I agree with that too.
yes.
Shout out to Miss Heather. She was the first person who ever cared about my eyebrows. She, she took me to get my eyebrows waxed, and honey, they were matched to the gods. And I was like, you are the first person who see me.
I love that so
Shout
much.
out to her
Yes,
for like helping me be a hot girl.
I love
So
that.
my second question to you is overall, what advice do you have for our little baby cousins who are still in foster care?
Advocate for yourself, pour
Mm,
into yourself, and
mm,
love yourself fully. A lot of times in our experiences, we tend to look for that love externally. Try to find it internally first. Surround yourself with people who genuinely and authentically care about you and your experiences completely. And yeah, take care of you. Love yourself
yeah.
fully.
That is wise advice. And last but not least, this is a big, big question. So take all the time that you need. But Sonia, who are you without the trauma of child welfare?
I am free. I
Mm,
am. When I thought about this question, I was like, I'm still navigating that.
mm, mhm,
I think that when I get to that point of not having the trauma of my experiences,
mm,
then I will be free.
mm,
But today, as of right now, it's something that I'm still healing through and working through. I'm still unraveling and uncovering all of the things, all of my experiences and how they've shaped me as a woman and how they are still shaping me as a woman.
mm.
So, yeah, I'm still navigating that.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think it was Felicia Rashad who said it several years ago in a speech when she was accepting some kind of honor or award. And long story short, she said she's always becoming. She's never,
Yes,
she's always becoming. And that's
that's
your
the perfect
response
way to say it.
made me think we are always becoming, right? And so I think that as we continue to do this healing work, as we continue to grow and to accept love and to find our soft spaces and to land and nestle into them, that we are always becoming and we are always growing and we are always healing. And we will continue to do that for the rest of our lives. And we
Yeah.
will learn how to do that in new capacities with new journeys and new experiences. So it's okay. We're always becoming. And that is
Yeah.
a
Always
beautiful.
becoming
Yeah.
and learning and growing and sharing. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm just
And loving and shining. Yeah. Look at you.
yes.
I'm so proud of you, cousin.
I'm proud
You
of
gotta be
you,
my
cousin.
cousin
Thank
because we were
you.
there together. Okay. So you my cousin. Everyone out there,
Yeah,
you cousin.
I love
Child welfare
that our
cousin.
life experiences have allowed us to get to this point in our journey.
Yeah.
It makes me emotional. So
Yeah.
I am very proud of us. Very,
Yeah.
very proud of
I'm
us.
so grateful for people like you and others in the community there is just such an understanding, amongst
Mhm.
us. And I get excited because I see us growing and I see us learning and I see us flourishing. And it feels like family. It feels like
Yeah, it does.
like having the disenfranchised familial experiences that we might have had.
Mhm.
I truly, when I say cousin, you got the
Mhm.
cousin love right here. Okay. And for all y'all listening who are in child welfare, we cousins too. So, hit up cousin Al,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for the work that you're doing and your willingness and your bravery and telling your story. And I look forward to seeing you grow. So thank you
I
for
look forward to seeing you grow, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. We'll talk soon. The InnerViews podcast is a production of the Safe Camp Audio Network, which is a division of Youth Voices Rising via Fostering Media Connections. Please visit safecamp.audio.org on the web or Safe Camp Audio on all major social media. This podcast was produced and mixed by Christine Onjoko. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you consider sharing, subscribing, and or giving us a 5-star rating on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcast.